everyone could take their seats, please. So we are now reconvening after a closed session for the purpose of discussing the superintendent's evaluation. So the next item on the agenda then is the approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 25th, 2014 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I don't think you can
Fight about it later.
I can.
Oh, I thought
I
you
was
were.
there.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
was there. I came late.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the March 25th, 2014 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, are there any, well, first of all, public comment. We will do celebrate success from the WTA, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start our little slideshow presentation. Here we go. Good evening, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, which is, I think I know most of you, my name's Tara Mazzacano. I teach fourth grade over at Manning School, and I've been there for over 15 years. And I'm here tonight with Karen Johnson, who's back there behind me, who's been at Manning School Library Media Specialist for about 6 years. And we're here to talk a little bit about our drama club and all the wonderful things that we've been doing with our club, not this year, but also in years past. A little history about our club is it's been going on since I've been there, so at least well over a decade. And I thought it was interesting. It was actually initiated by students. Many years ago, 2 students wanted to have a drama club at Manning School, and so they went to the former superintendent, Don Wold, and asked him, hey, can we have a drama club? And Don said, absolutely, as long as you find a sponsor. And they went to Paula Rath, found that sponsor, and as the years have gone on, it's kind of morphed down to myself and Karen Johnson. It's a 4th grade club, exclusively 4th grade. There's a cast of 30 people, and we like to limit the cast to 30 because it really provides a rich experience for the students. It lets them be able to have a little bit of a depth of experience there. There's no audition, so it's no pressure. It's basically first come, first serve, and students actually get to sign up for the parts they want, and we usually, between the first they rank their choices, and usually between the first 2 choices, we are able to give them what they like. We meet for about 3 days a week, for about an hour to an hour and a half a day, depending on how stressed out we are, if we're going to be able to get it all done. And it takes about 3 months to put on the entire production, and it is, in fact, for those of you that don't know, a real play. There's costumes, props, sets, all sorts of things. There's usually something, live animals. One year we're having dancing this year, so it's very exciting. And that's probably about my favorite part of the club is that it brings that whole school community together. There's students, there's parents, there's teachers working together to create a scene or a set, and it's just lovely. Something else that we felt compelled to share with you, and I'm sure many of you know this too, is that the fine arts have really been scientifically proven year in and year out to be linked to student achievement. According to the National Endowment for the Arts and the United States Department of Education, studies of student learning experience in drama, music, dance, and multi-arts activities show student growth in self-confidence, self-control, self-identity, conflict resolution, collaboration, empathy, and social tolerance. And I can really attest to it, as I'm sure Karen could too, that we definitely see that in our students, and I'm sure that many of you who've had the experience of drama club in your families have seen that with your kids too. And that brings me to drama club drama, because that is always part of the drama club, and it's just a really great opportunity for our students to become more mature. And there's always a little bit of tears, a lot of laughter, and the opportunity just to be part of something greater than themselves. And it's really a great thing that we get to do at Manning, where it's kind of the first chance for a lot of these students to create something unique in a non-competitive environment. There's lots of sports and lots of team activities that are competitive, but this is really an opportunity for these students to create something unique outside of themselves for the pleasure of other people. So it's just one of those things that pushes them out of their comfort zone, gets them to create new friendships, and it's wonderful. As some of you probably have already seen, a couple weeks ago I had the opportunity to go to the junior high production of Beauty and the Beast, and I found it particularly gratifying because I saw a lot of former cast members from drama club there, and so it was obviously something that drama clubs had an impact on. There's a couple of them there right now, a lasting impact on the students. Finally, Karen Johnson and I would like to extend an invitation to anybody, community members, board members, for you to take a trip with us to ancient Egypt, Greece, Mesopotamia, and Rome on May 20th at 7 o'clock in the Manning School gym to see our fourth grade drama club present Dig It. It's a musical tale of ancient civilizations. So, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We have early childhood, too. Early childhood is also presented.
Oh,
for
okay.
WTA.
And we have early childhood as well?
Good evening. I'm Lillian Tsai, and this is my partner, Jung Stump. We both are early childhood special education teacher. Today, we want to talk about preschool screening. And the purpose of preschool screening, obviously, is to identify preschoolers who are in need of intervention, and we want to provide those interventions as early as possible. We have preschool screening 4 times a year. I'd like to look at the setup, to show you the setup of our preschool screening. We set it up what we call a arena-style setup. We have a room for parents to wait, and also parents need to fill out a questionnaire. And then we have a room that is for our nurse for vision and hearing screening. And then there are 3 areas that are in one room. And also this takes place at Manning in the community room. We have we call a center that tests for concepts. These are cognitive and basic concepts tests. And then we also have a center for motors, gross motors, and fine motors. And we have a center to test speech. This is speech and language. And then in the same room, we also have an area for children to play if they have to wait to go to be tested. The assessment tool we use is called the DIAL-4. It stands for Developmental Indicator for Assessment of Learning. And the tasks are individually administered. The 5 areas of developments that we look at in this screening is self-help development, social-emotional development. These 2, the self-help and social-emotional development, we receive information from parents, from the parents' questionnaires. And then we have motor development, concept development, and language development. And so also during the test session, the administrator also fill out a behavioral observation form. Separation from adult, is the child easy or hesitant, unable to separate from adult, cry. And the verbal response to question, is the child willing to respond or reluctant or no response? Persistent, how persistent is the child to stay on task? Attention and activity level. Can the child wait until the end of instruction to work, or the child just couldn't wait? Participation, how well the child participate in the task. Is the child willing to do that, or need encouragement? And then also impulsivity and how well the child understands direction. So the child will get a rating from the tester on all these behavioral observation. In the parents' questionnaire, there are some questions about self-help development. Self-help means that questions on the everyday skills that a child needs. How well does the child dress himself, herself, feeding, using bathroom, social-emotional development. These are questions like how well the children get along with other people and how he or she feels about herself or himself, and the overall development, that's any overall concern that the parents have on the child. And the 4 points you see, I am not worried, I'm a little worried, those are the answers that parents provide us. These are a couple of pictures of the, one is the waiting room. The waiting room is where where the parents fill out the questionnaires, and they also wait there for the screening. Parents interview, there's a short interview after the parents finish the questionnaire, just clarify some of the answers. The next area is the motor area. To test how well the child throw a ball, throwing, standing, hop, skip, stand on one foot, building with blocks, finger movements, cutting with scissors, and copying. And these include both gross motors and fine motors. Fine motor like handling pencil and using scissors, and also building things with hands. So Joan is going to cover the other two areas.
Okay. Thank you. Concepts are assessed by members of the screening team, usually a school psychologist or preschool teacher. The testing is conducted in a positive, non-threatening environment, which children complete fun, age-appropriate tasks using bright and appealing materials. The Dial 4 tool we use provides the questions and the testing materials. The assessment we do includes having a child point to named body parts, naming or identifying colors, rote counting, counting blocks, identifying concepts in a triad of pictures, rapid object naming, and also shape sorting. So they're basic preschool skills. These are a few pictures of the test environment with the type of very simple materials that we use to test the skills. The language area is next, and that is assessed by our district speech therapists. The speech therapist will assess the following areas. They'll have the child answer simple questions such as the child's name, age, and sex. They'll review articulation. They have naming objects and identifying objects, as well as naming actions. They have phonemic awareness tasks included, such as rhyming and I Spy. And there's more photos of it's a very similar test environment as the concepts. After all the three major areas are completed, motor, language, and concepts, the vision and hearing screening are conducted by the school nurse. And when all of those areas have been completed, the eligibility team meets to discuss the results. A letter is sent home to families who participated, detailing the results of the screening, and then the possible outcomes are reviewed. And these are the possible outcomes that can come from the screening. First, they may have a pass, which would mean there are no concerns at this time, and there is no follow-up warranted. They could have a child return for rescreening in some or all of the areas. We could refer a child to the First Start program in our district. They could have a child referred for additional evaluation. And that is the end of our preschool screening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kevin, can I ask one quick question about that? And it is more for you. I'm just curious, why is the testing being conducted at Manning instead of at South?
We just had that conversation, if we could move it to South. And the issue is, when you look at the setup that you have to have for the screening and all the different areas, there just are not enough separate areas within South to conduct it at. And so Manning.
Because this is actually occurring during school time, right? Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It does.
Okay. Are there any other public comments? Okay. Then we will move on to the consent agenda. I do have one quick question about the transportation contract. And I see we're looking to approve it tonight. And the memo does say that Westway is aware of the district's high expectations. So I just want to reiterate if we can work, not that we're not, but work with them more to continue with making sure that the transportation is committed to high-quality service, and that, you know, maybe this year, if we know we've been talking, saying, you know, to count that, you know, or record the differences and discrepancies and things like that. But if we could instill something where if it starts to get bad, you know, we don't wait until the end to maybe put any.
Right, yeah, and we've put that in place, Marie, where all secretaries are required to monitor all the routes each day and report. They have an Excel spreadsheet that they report on, and so far, so good, and we'll continue to have that in place.
Okay, really good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, anybody have anything else? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendations. Number 2, appointment of DAOES representative. 3, approval of SACID classroom lease. 4, approval of transportation contract. 5, abatement of working cash funds. 6, approval of April 2014 expenditure report. And 7, ratification of March 2014 regular payroll.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is presentation of monthly financial statements.
Okay, well, the good news is we received the second quarter mandated categoricals during the month of March, so about $415,000 in revenue. And the state did voucher the third quarter categorical, so now they owe us another, $328,000. So someday they'll maybe get caught up and actually pay the mandated categoricals in the quarter that they're due. But again, in the education fund, revenues are, comparable to, where they are, should be at this time of year. Transportation fund, again, we received the second quarter, so in terms of revenue-wise, we're on target there. Education fund, expenditures are comparable to the prior years. Again, we're monitoring, some of our costs for some tuition and things like that that are a little bit higher than we anticipated. In the O&M fund, our natural gas through March, we've now spent, so this year what we did all of last year. So we know that we will exceed budget for that, and monitoring that to really kind of determine, once we get next month's bill, that will help me gauge whether we're going to exceed, the total O&M budget. And that just, is just a little footnote disclosure. And you just basically explain what happened, and we couldn't predict that we would have this severe of a winter based on where we've been before. So anyway, we're 66% spent to date, which is, okay. And, we had increased overtime costs, and hopefully those will now level out, that we've started to maybe get a little bit of warmer weather. And then the transportation fund, again, we know that our special education transportation will exceed budget, and just monitoring that closely to see where we come in with that as well. And then the investments and liability counts and lunch report are attached. Does anybody have questions?
No? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, then superintendent's report.
We have our final 3 EPERT reports, gifted an AP program, summer school, and then the class size and configuration. Jack Baldwin is going to be up first with the gifted and AP. I'm going to go around to the other side because I'm doing the gifted enrichment.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jack.
You all have the sheets in front of you. It's a pretty brief summary of the work that we did. We met on 3 occasions. I want to thank the committee members, especially Rebecca Johnson, Megan Havel, Diana Mulby, Jane Most, Karen Walsh, our teachers who gave of their time. Shannon and Marie were our board member representatives, and Kristen and myself represented the administration. So we met on 3 separate occasions. We came to consensus pretty quickly that we really don't have a traditionally defined gifted program. Is that the same assessment everybody came to? And so it would be difficult to either decrease or increase spending when there is no spending currently occurring in that area. However, we did talk about the what we thought would be a great idea would be to support gifted activities and gifted teaching throughout the district. While this was being discussed and the committee was working, Superintendent Carey came up with a very detailed proposal to have instructional coaches K through 12. The board has subsequently approved that program, so it really, I think, in many ways exceeded even the expectations that we had originally, if I could speak for the committee. So, with that being said, I don't want to, it seems almost a moot point at this time, but the committee's recommendation was taken care of by the superintendent's program and by the board's endorsement of it. And I don't know what else I can say about that. I would like, after any questions about the committee or its work, I would like to talk a little bit about AP because it's connected to the gifted programming, but so this report is a little anticlimactic at this point, but it is what it is, right?
It's a good thing, right?
I think so, yeah. It exceeded our expectations, I believe. So we're very excited. We're very grateful for Superintendent Carey's proposal and for the board's support.
Okay.
The next piece, it's connected, I guess, is the, gifted AP. And we kind of, AP is a little bit distinct from gifted, but I would like to share this. To my knowledge, there's only 3 different reports that rank high schools nationally. There's the oldest, which is the Washington Post Challenge Index. There's U.S. News and World Reports rankings, and there's Newsweek. So the one from the Washington Post, the Challenge Index, came out about 2 weeks ago. And what happens is the report is 1 year in arrears, if you will, because they collect the data after the students have already taken the exams and there's reporting out of how successful students were. So for instance, in about a week and a half, the students at Westmont High School are going to take a record number of advanced placement exams. That would not be reported this year. That data will be collected next early spring and then reported in May of 2015. But we've been tracking this data for a few years, and the culmination of all of our work together, the grants, support from district office, support from the board, and the very hard work of our teachers and students. If you look at this one ranking here from the Challenge Index, this was reported in 2013, but it was based on the work that was done by high schools across the nation in 2012. And these were the top 13 high schools in Illinois out of 650 plus high schools in our state. Now, the index on the far right-hand side is pretty much just a measurement of a school's commitment to an advanced placement program. But based on the number of students currently who are signed up and registered to take tests in 2014, which will be reported in 2015, we'd have a Challenge Index score of 3.14. I provided you with the 2013 report just to show you how schools are constantly upgrading. But if our current score, bless you, would have placed us in about the top 7 schools in Illinois. The backside is the report that just came out a week and a half ago, which is the results from 2013 reported in 2014. And once again, as I said, our students have taken the classes, registered for the test. They'll start taking the test on May 5th. We have a big pep rally planned on May 2nd. We're really excited about how hard everybody has worked. But if this year's results were reported this year, which of course they won't be reported next year, once again, Westmont would have been in the top 10 in the Challenge Index. I can anticipate that score of 3.14 will probably place us in the top 10 to 15 schools in Illinois in the Washington Post index, depending, we don't know what other schools are going to do, but you see where we fall. The information from U.S. News and World Report just came out like a day or two ago. And it's a little more complicated formula. So we'll have to take a look at that, look at all the different criteria, and then see where we would be projected for next year. But the nice thing is the culmination of all the hard work that we've all put in as a team, this time next year, our school will be ranked very high, and I'm very confident, looking at the last 10 years of trend data, that we'll have the most improved AP program in Illinois and maybe in top 10 or even better in the country. And I'm really proud of that. It's one of the things I've taken most pride in my whole career, because everybody had to pull together. The support from all of you, from Kevin, from district office, from the teachers who went above and beyond, and especially from parents and our students who put themselves out there and really worked hard. So we'll take a look at the U.S. News and World Report data and see where we fall. I think we're going to be dramatically improved there. We may not be top 10 in that particular ranking, but we will be in the top 5% in the state there. So
That's great.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
When the index, and I'm
Yes.
sure there's a million factors that go into that, is that based on what we offer, or the test results, or a combination of all of it, or what is that?
for the challenge index, it's simply a factor of how many students are being exposed to actually not only taking the courses, but actually following through and taking the test. And they also have, they do it state by state, of course, and nationwide rankings. You don't have the nationwide rankings in here, you just have Illinois as a state. There's the Excellence and Equity Report, which is a breakdown of what percentage of the seniors have actually passed an AP exam. Then there's the lunch program, which says which percentage of your school has students who are on free and reduced lunch. Now and then of course the index is based on the percentage of students who have followed through, taken the class, taken the test, and reported a score out. So there's a few different factors on this index. The interesting thing is, the schools that are at the top, most of them are selective schools. However, there's a few schools that are actually suburban schools like ourselves. But what would distinguish us further, in my opinion, is of the suburban schools, they have anywhere from about, we have 10 times to at least double the number of students who are on free reduced lunch that these other suburban schools have, which once again I think is a source of pride for our district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
It's nice to hear. It was a great committee to work on, by the way. Our committee was easy. Okay, Kevin, summer school next? Yep.
Shirley, thanks.
You already, no, it's fine, it's okay. We already have this, you already have this information, but I wanted you to have it in front of you, and if it's okay, I'm just going to do just a little introduction, and then we'll go over the information, and I've given myself about 5 minutes, so let's see how I do. I wanted to thank the committee, which was composed of Mr. Price. Thank you, Mr. Price. I hope you'll feel the same way that Marie felt, and that is, it was a great committee to work on.
It was awesome.
Thanks, I'm just getting that in now.
I
Okay.
changed. We were fantastic.
Mr. Price and also Ms. Tsai, Ms. Hinman. I had the pleasure of being on the committee, and we also had assistance from Kim and from Kevin, from some SACID staff as well. And so we also accessed input from building administrators, and we were grateful to them for their input. As you know, I think some of what Jack said about the gifted program might apply to the summer school program. It was really a very small summer school program to begin with, and as the committee tackled the question of what we would do if we were to increase the programs by 10%, the board had already made a decision that we were going to increase those programs significantly, and so that's really the good news. So I'm kind of going back a little bit, but at the end of my presentation, I would like to talk to you about a few things that came up in the committee in terms of some things we'd like to maybe look at in the future. But historically, we know the summer programs have been small in scale. We know that they've been offered in various formats, acknowledging our budgetary concerns. In the information that you have, the program components that are identified as level 2 include high school opportunities that were offered for the first time, such as the option for students to complete coursework that was in progress during the final weeks of June so as to graduate on schedule, and also the opportunity to participate in classes that were offering targeted summer learning experiences as students prepared for more rigorous coursework, and Mr. Balderman has just beautifully addressed that. In both cases, the offerings were developed in response to an assessment of needs. At the elementary schools, the Compass Learning online class allowed students to maintain and to develop their skills over the summer at a pace and on a schedule that they chose. The junior high class, so often referred to as Jumpstart 6th grade, was backed by what I would call popular demand. It had been so well received in previous summers, and people were really happy to see that come back. And as I mentioned earlier, while our assignment didn't really include recommendations for future programming, I do think that some of our most energetic and impassioned discussions related to what we could do if. And so I think that it would be doing a disservice to the committee if I didn't share what some of those thoughts were. I did note in my written remarks to you that it was interesting to note that as the committee's conversations were taking place, building administrators, staff, school board members, with the encouragement of Mr. Carey, were designing an experience for this summer that certainly represents an expansion of offerings that will address the needs and the interests of more of our students. So if I could take a minute and just go through this with you, and this will be a very quick movement through this information. Where you see program outcomes, we know we had a virtual summer school through Compass Learning, and we had about 20 students take advantage of that. We had programs for junior high school students, programs for high school students, and then we had extended school year programs. And I just want to take a minute to point out that a summer school program is not the same thing as an extended school year program. An extended school year, or ESY, is really the terminology we use for a student who has summer school recommended as a part of their IEP, because the discussion relates to whether or not that student, if denied the opportunity to continue their education over the summer, if that student would regress and then not regain those skills within a certain period of time. So we did have extended school year services that were offered, programs that were offered, and those were provided by SACID, by our co-op, and also by private schools. When you look at the next page, the program activities, we know that for the Compass Learning, we had district students that were engaging in online learning upon demand, facilitated by a certified teacher who was managing the program. At the junior high, we had students entering 6th grade participating in activities that were focusing on what we were calling the critical factors for their success in the transition from elementary to junior high. At the high school, we had high school students participating in classes offering opportunities for credit recovery as well as preparation for enriched academic offerings. And then we had students with IEPs attending extended school year offerings consistent with the requirements of their IEPs. So in terms of program evaluation, we looked at those students that were taking the Compass summer opportunity, and we looked at how they were demonstrating their skills, had they maintained those skills, and we were using the MAP testing as a way to look at that, comparing the testing that was done as they entered the school year to the testing that had been done as they concluded the previous school year. In terms of the junior high piece, we were looking at academic and social emotional indicators, believing that they were reflective of a successful transition to the junior high experience. In terms of our high school students, they were successfully completing their classes, they were earning credit, and if they were taking that coursework that was going to prepare them for more rigorous opportunities, they were demonstrating their readiness for these advanced academic offerings. And then in terms of the children attending the SASSET or the private school programs, what they were doing is they were being evaluated in terms of their progress toward their goals. So students that were receiving speech services or occupational therapy services or some type of counseling were continuing to be assessed on their progress toward goals. So if you look at the first chart, program expenditures, level 1 versus level 2, understanding that level 1 was the current programming. And then if you just kind of follow this along, you'll see what the changes would have been if we had reduced the programming by 10%. You'll see a column there, or I'm sorry, a row there that says other tuition, and you'll see that says 40,000. There's an asterisk after that. I just want to point out that that reflects the extended school year costs, and there's really no way to project those from year to year, or I guess to say it more clearly, there's really no way to say, well, what would happen if we would decrease this by 10%, because that is not the way you would approach an IEP recommendation. So we would just, that cost is always going to be based on what that student with special education needs in terms of his IEP or her IEP. So that was tuition that we paid to SASSET, some of which is reimbursed to us through a reimbursement formula that we complete with the state. And as you look at other parts of this chart, when we had to talk about what we might do if we were going to reduce, really there aren't too many areas that you'd cut from. So you'd have to cut salaries, which would mean you would probably have larger groups of kids, or you would have fewer offerings. You might find a way to reduce transportation a bit. And as I said, cutting programming, for example, cutting Compass and not having that be an option for those 20 kids that found it beneficial. So there really weren't too many places that we would see as being able to cut from in any significant way. And then if you look at the next chart, you'll just see the comparison of level 2 to level 3, what would happen if we increased by 10%. Again, those amounts are negligible. I think that what the board and the building administrators have put in place for this year certainly reflects something that's a great deal more, what's the word I want to say? I'll say rigorous than what this 10% would accommodate. So that's the comparison, and I would just say that in terms of talking about what if, and if you work with Mr. Carey, you learn to think that way. What if we did it this way? And what if we consider this possibility? And I, for one, really appreciate that. So as we talked about what would happen if we could do this, the committee talked about possibly marketing the Compass program earlier so that we could increase the number of students that were participating. We talked about the fact that it appeared that the 20 students that were in the program obviously took advantage of that, but one of the things that Mr. Price mentioned is we could even consider offering sort of a blended option there where we would have a Compass program and the children would have an opportunity for the online learning, and at the same time would have a component where they could actually, on a scheduled basis, actually meet with the instructor and have some face-to-face interaction, which we thought was certainly something that we could pursue to great gain on the part of the students. We also talked about providing a summer school program for our early childhood students that have individual education plans. Right now, any of our little ones, 3 to 5, that have an extended school year recommendation, right now they go to SASSET programs, and we certainly see the benefit of at least having a discussion about what it would mean to those students to keep them in our district with teachers with whom they're familiar, and we'd like to continue that discussion. We talked about the importance of maybe providing a targeted summer school program for our ELL students and how that could benefit our children. And when we were really sort of considering what if, we talked about how nice it was to have a Jumpstart 6 and a Jumpstart 9, and we said, what if we had a Jumpstart Kindergarten? Because we're finding maybe more kids that are coming into kindergarten with that gap already there. We've got those children that are coming in poised and ready to go. They've had all those early learning experiences, and then we have those children that come in and they don't have maybe a basic introduction to the numbers or the colors or those other kinds of things that you need to really be successful in kindergarten programs that are becoming more and more, academically challenging. So it was really a pleasure to participate in the committee, and it was certainly a pleasure to participate in these discussions that started with what if. So thanks, Mr. Price, because I think you sort of led the way there, so I appreciate that very much. Any questions?
That was very thorough, Linda.
Fast enough? Did I make it in 5?
Beautiful.
All right. I was trying to remember to take a breath. I'm not sure if you were, but it was like, okay, no, but thank you.
And it was like right after we had our first meeting, and then kind of in between those 2 points before the second meeting, it was when we were getting the rumblings that something was coming with summer school, a more substantive summer school program this year, and that really made our conversations a lot easier in some ways. And we could explore the what-ifs a little bit more, because it seemed like we were actually going to have a real program this year, and I'm so happy that we finally are addressing that need after so many years of not having anything. So,
Thanks, Mr. Price.
all right, thank you.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much.
And the last EPERT report this evening is on a class size and organization for the school district. And this was a committee that I facilitated. And and this is true of all the reports. And this is our third board meeting in which we shared EPERT reports. But for anybody who watches our board meetings, the complete reports are contained in the board book, and they're public access. And so basically what you receive at the board meeting is kind of an overview. The board has the complete report. And then I'm going to go through kind of an executive summary of our work and the report. But again, all the data, all the information is included in the board book. But we had several committee members representing parents within the district. We had a board member on our committee, as well as a teacher who served on it. And then several of our administrators were a part of our committee. We want to make sure that we did tie our work to our strategic plan. And so when you look at the mission of our district and also what our goal is as far as student achievement, one of our beliefs about student achievement, we believe that when you start talking about class sizes and ultimately the organization of the district does meet those two criteria. The program outcomes that we were focused on, we wanted to make sure that class sizes are reasonable to effectively educate our students. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our student population, maintaining safe learning environments, the retention of high-quality teachers. Honestly, that hasn't been an issue for our district. I can't think of the last time we've had somebody resign and move on from our district. So the retaining of our high-quality teachers hasn't been an issue for us. And then maintaining our community confidence and satisfaction. The process, as a district, we have staffing guidelines, so the committee reviewed our staffing guidelines. We have enrollment projections that we took a look at, and those projections are part of the full report. We administered a survey to our community, and the survey results also are part of the report. And then we also took some time to review school organization, various studies on grade level centers and what those look like. And then also we reviewed our current staffing and funding. When you look at our current funding level, because the question that we ask all of our committees is what happens when we increase funding and decrease funding. But basically, when you talk about class size, you're talking about teachers. And so FTE is full-time teacher equivalent. And so a teacher who is full-time is 1.0. And so you can kind of see the breakdown for Manning Miller, the junior high and the high school, and then the total for us. And we're at 108 teachers. And so when you start talking about that increase and decrease of funding, there is a dollar value, obviously, but ultimately you do start talking about personnel. And so if we took a look at a 10% reduction, this table shows you the changes that occur not only in terms of the expenditure, but also in terms of staffing for each of the buildings. And then the committee, when we kind of took a look at that and were brainstorming, again, it's kind of interesting, the committee, their priority was always trying to maintain the same level of service for our students. And so right away it was, well, we need to squeeze the supply and services budget and look at non-certified staffing, but really hang on to those certified teachers. The board is aware of this. It's been a couple of years, but early on we were kind of in that cost containment mode. And one of the things that we really squeezed were, the supply budgets and the capital outlay budgets. And so really as a district, we kind of have trimmed those almost as much as we can. And so if we really truly want to get down into that 10% reduction, you would be looking at staffing. And so then the committee, in terms of if they were prioritizing, the committee would, again, try to preserve that's the classroom teacher. And so we looked at the elective areas, art, music, PE, and library, the co-curriculars, enrichment, interventions, and but ultimately, again, you get to that point where you're reducing staffing to, and that in turn will increase class sizes. If we did the reverse, if we increased our staffing by 10% or increased our funding by 10%, then again, you would see an increase in the number of teachers within the district. And the committee, when they were looking at this and thought, well, if we had, and I think the overall feeling is currently, we're staffed appropriately for our schools and for our class sizes. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to ensure that. And so they were looking more at what could we do additionally for our students. And so after school programs for students, additional support for struggling learners, but then also providing additional opportunities for our gifted learners as well. More technology support for our students. Foreign language was very popular, especially filtering that down to lower grades. Enhancing the fine arts program, adding computer sciences to all grade levels, digital technology, and then enhancing the junior high programming. And that was, it's similar to the conversations I think the board had when John Jonek and Aim Quattrone they were sharing information about the schedule, that whole idea of electives and more opportunities for students to explore at the junior high level. The recommendations that came out of the committee that if at all possible, avoid reducing funding. I think that's a common theme of all of our committees in this area. But definitely if there are opportunities for additional funding, we can enhance the student learning experience. And then the committee also, because part of it, the committee was also looking at configuration, because sometimes when you are faced with that decision about reducing funding in an area, some districts have been able to maintain class sizes by looking at their configuration. And so the committee did look at the concept of grade level centers. They looked at several different studies on grade level centers. Some of those are included in the report. The one thing is there is no definitive study that will tell you grade level centers are the way to go or grade level centers are not good for students. There is no definitive study. And probably one of the best studies point out the fact that there are so many other factors when you're looking at a district that transition to grade level centers that it's almost impossible to pinpoint, yes, the success students are achieving is because of grade level centers, or the fact that possibly there's been a disruption in learning that is due to grade level centers. There's just too many factors. But within the report are several pros and cons of districts that have transitioned to grade level centers, the good things that have come out of that, and then also some of the negative things that have come out of that. Specific to our district, in terms of if you're looking at the financial end of it, because you could reduce staffing, and it depends on which configuration you go with, it would be approximately $165,000 savings, but at the same time there would be additional costs for transportation, and roughly, in talking to Westway, roughly about $19,000 annually for that. And then the other question that the committee looked at as well, another way, if you're looking at reducing staffing, you want to maintain class sizes, is looking at your boundary changes. Again, you're not going to find a definitive study on what's great about boundary changes or what's not so great about boundary changes. Again, there's a list of pros and cons within the report. Because this would be a pretty thorough study, you have to look at population densities within the district to kind of determine where you would draw lines in order to level off the class sizes. You would be able to maintain neighborhood schools, which is what we currently have. And then you would be able to balance your class sizes and your demographics within classes. But in terms of an overall real savings, it's difficult to project that at this time without going through that exhaustive study. I know that's kind of a very quick executive summary, but kind of gives you the flavor of the work that the committee did. Again, you have the reports included in your board book. And then is there any questions at this time?
That was quite a 108-page document that was in the board book. Thank you.
The doozy.
It was thorough.
Yeah.
I read every page.
The one, and this is, just to kind of wrap up, and I think I shared this in the in my board update, weekly update to the board, that now that we've seen the first group of reports, what I'm going to try to do, and probably with some assistance from other administrators in the district, is kind of pull this all together in a user-friendly format, because we're talking about increasing funding in some areas, decreasing in others, trying to take a look at the impact on students, bring that to the board for a richer conversation about all these different areas. And we, as been pointed out this evening, some areas we've already started to make some progress in, but there's other areas that we still haven't addressed yet, and so we need to start taking a look at those areas. But I will put that together for you, bring that to the board, and in a future meeting we'll have that richer conversation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then also, part of my report, just in terms of communication, I think most of the board members were able to attend our spring musicals at the high school and junior high. And I first want to compliment both the junior high and the high school fine arts departments and the students for, two very wonderful productions. I know the evenings that I attended both of the productions, unfortunately, our sound quality didn't match the performance or the time and effort that all the students and adults put into those performances. And so I have had conversations with Mike Maros, our Director of Building and Grounds. He did have an individual who assessed the high school auditorium sound system. The person is a sound engineer. They're in the process of also assessing the junior high as well. And the good news, the early report, we still haven't gotten the official report. I guess on the positive side, the high school equipment seems like it is, has the potential to function correctly, let's put it that way. All the components are working. Everything that we need to have an excellent sound system in our auditorium is present. There were some, and nobody knows for sure, there are some components that maybe were switched off for whatever reason. And because of that, there were some issues with the speakers. But we're in the process of getting it all recalibrated. The next phase will be to make sure that all of our personnel are trained appropriately, so that going forward, we should get better use of our sound system. And he will also take a look at the junior high as well. And any problems or changes that we need to make at the junior high, we'll address those as well. So we're looking into that.
That is fantastic news. Thank you for that, because I do know it's been brought up before. These kids work very hard, and the teachers and the staff and everything, and then if you can't hear them, it's pretty tough. So that would be fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
And the last item that I have is, I think you received an invitation to the retirement and longevity awards, I would term them, for the district. That is on Thursday, May 8th at 6 o'clock. And even though the deadline was April 17th to reserve a spot if you would like to attend, Lisa Cozen, teacher at the junior high, she's finalizing her numbers this week. So if you were to send her an email to let her know that you would like to attend, she can still include you, and you can still attend that evening.
Okay. All right. Are there any board reports?
I just had one quick thing. I just saw it today, I wanted to congratulate the students at Manning for their St. Jude Mathathon. I guess they raised over $4,000, so congratulations to them. That's great to hear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's fantastic, so. Oh, great. And I also must say congratulations to the junior high, because today's announcements in the junior high, they're doing a survey of the kids, or a contest to rename the Excel class. So, already heard from some parents who wish they could jump in on that, but, you know, it's great. So that's something to look forward to. So if any junior high students are listening, put in your suggestions, so.
I also want to say, last Monday, the Oakwood community, which encompasses the junior high and the high school, had their annual homeowner association meeting, and they invited Jack Alderman and John Jonak out to speak, and wanted to express their thanks again for the, it was a wonderful presentation. I'd seen some of the material before, but it was enjoyable. But really appreciate, again, this is a great community outreach opportunity. They came out, put on a great presentation, a lot of energy, communicate a lot of things about where we're going with the district and things. And just want to express our thanks again for coming out.
And the junior high band concert is Thursday, this Thursday. It's the 24th? 24th.
Is the junior high and high school together? Or just junior high?
I think it's just the junior high.
Okay, well, why don't I do this? The fifth grade step up is April 23rd, 6:30, which is tomorrow. Junior high spring band concert is the April 24th, Thursday. Miller School spring concert, April 29th at 7 o'clock at Miller School. Westmont High School variety show, April 30th at the high school. Manning Spring Choral Concert, May 1st at the high school. Junior High Barnes & Noble, May 7th at Barnes & Noble in Oak Brook. The next board meeting is May 13th. Wow. Right here. Did that answer your question? Okay. All right. Then, the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, personnel issues, student discipline, and probable litigation.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Ms. Caprelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes, and there will not be a vote after closed.
Good to see you.